Welcome to r/RedditRevenge. This is a story of someone getting back at someone with revenge after being wronged. And today we have 3 great stories. So subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. After being robbed by a hostile roommate, the victim exacts ingenious revenge, destroying the thief's laptop, snapping cards, pocketing a watch. The second story. Coworkers rallied to reveal the truth, leading to just consequences for the manipulative accuser and the emergence of a supportive workplace. The third story. When an obnoxious customer pushed the limits of rudeness in a grocery store, the patient employee decided to forget 2 bags of her groceries in the rain. The first story is, "You stole from me. I can do much worse." I'm currently traveling through Europe and I just got robbed by one of my hostel roommates. Here's how it all started. First, I arrived at the hostel, and after checking in, I realized that the latch on my locker was broken. I had a padlock, but since the latch was broken, I had no way to actually lock my locker. I went and reported this to the reception, and they said that they would get maintenance to check it out. I'm over a month into my Europe trip, and I've had great roommates so far, so despite the locker still not locking, I figured it wouldn't be so bad. On the second day, I left the hostel around 11 a.m. and did not return until around 6 p.m. When I got back, I instantly noticed my stuff had been gone through since zippers were left open, Ziploc bags unzipped, and other stuff misplaced. I quickly go through my stuff to check if anything is stolen. Everything was still there. However, when I checked my wallet, it was a different story. In my wallet, I had Brazilian reais and euros, and what a coincidence, all my euros were gone, but my Brazilian reais were still there. Luckily, I only lost around 100 euros, because I had another compartment in my bag where I had much more cash. I quickly went to reception and reported the incident, and the staff took the matter very seriously. But since it was cash, it was basically impossible to get me the money back. I had my suspicions on who the culprit was, because my other roommates had mentioned having problems with this one guy, we'll call Bob, for the past week. He was extremely rude, would come home drunk every night, starts drinking at 10 a.m., left water trails all throughout the dorm area, smoked in the room, and was all around just a menace. I was also pretty close with the others, so it was pretty easy to rule them out, as I didn't think they would steal from me. For clarification, the dorm was a 6-bed, so there was me and 5 other roommates. After having my cash robbed, I knew I wasn't going to leave without having my locker locked. So me and one of my roommates helped me find a way to lock it, and we found that if we lift up the locker, we were able to line it up with a part of the bed where we could stick a lock through. Then me and the 3 other roommates set a trap by placing a €5 bill under a pillow, positioned in a place where it's hidden, but still obviously visible. We then go down and hang around for a bit. When we get back, Bob is laying down in his top bunk bed and there's a random person on the bed under mine. I'm a top bunk bed across the room from Bob. Originally, I thought that the random guy was one of Bob's friends, but it turns out the 4th roommate checked out and the random guy was new. When we get back, you guessed it, the €5 bill was missing, but that's not all. I went to open my locker and my keys were not working on my padlock. I then realized that a broken piece of a key was in my padlock. At this point, I was able to rule out any potential cleaning staff from stealing from me. And if it wasn't obvious enough, I knew it was Bob. At this point, we're all talking about the situation, and I look over at Bob and he's pretending to sleep face down in his bed. His head was slightly turned so he could look down onto the situation when he opened his eyes. At this point, I went down to the reception, and after I told the manager this, combined with everything else that we already told him, it was finally enough reasoning for them to be able to kick him out. So one of the staff members comes up and walks up to the sleeping Bob and asks to talk with him outside of the room. He pretends to wake up and immediately says he didn't do anything. After several back and forth between the two, he finally complies. At this point, the nuclear revenge occurs. While he's out of the room, I realize that I had a split chance to get revenge before Bob gets kicked out, and I never see him again. I realized that there was no way I was going to get the cash back, so I counted it as a loss and began looking for ways to get even. On his bed, he had his laptop, which was plugged in and charging. I grabbed the laptop, opened it, and laid the screen side down. I then held the bottom side in place and began pulling the screen part upwards until I heard it snap. That's right, I snapped his laptop in half. But that's not all, we're just getting started. I looked through the rest of his stuff. He also didn't use a lock, and half of his belongings were spread across the entire dorm. This man was a mess. I looked through his stuff and I'm able to find one of those card wallets in the back pocket of his pants. Unfortunately, there was no cash. However, there was a debit card and some other card. Not sure exactly what it was since I quickly glanced at it. I grabbed the cards and snapped both of them in half. I then slipped the cards back in his bag. I continued looking for stuff and found a nice looking watch and a toothbrush. I picked up the toothbrush, snapped it in half, and pocketed the watch. At this point, one of the staff members walks in and asks us all to leave, while Bob packs up his stuff. We all comply and my roommates head down to the lobby, but I had other plans. I left the hostel and walked 15 to 20 minutes to the river, and you probably guessed where this is going. I got his watch and chucked it from the bridge into the river. At this point, I began walking back and feel satisfied about the revenge I was able to get, but a little disappointed I couldn't see his reaction. Well, this is where things get interesting. As I'm walking back, I make a turn onto this long, narrow street where my hostel is on, and out of all odds, I see him walking in the same direction towards our hostel. He doesn't notice I'm behind him, but I'm just awkwardly walking behind him. As we're walking, he lets out a loud F and what sounded like a sigh of defeat. Eventually, he reaches our hostel, which is situated on the right side of the direction we were walking. However, he doesn't turn right and instead turns left into this tiny gas station type of shop that's selling a bunch of wine, beers, and other alcohols. As I approach my hostel before turning right, I glance to the left and see him trying to buy some alcohol. He doesn't notice me, so I turn my head and continue walking to the right into our hostel. Inside at the front of our hostel are these long stairs where you walk straight for a while. Then once you reach the top, you do a full 180 and climb the rest of the steps to reach the second floor. As I reach the first step of the stairs, I take another glance behind me. And not to sound cliche, but just like a movie, Bob is standing outside of the shop staring at me with a blank stare and a look of defeat. I continued walking, and as I'm about to do the 180 turn to climb the rest of the stairs, I give one last cold glance back at him, and at that moment, by the look on his face, he knew that I effed up his SH, and I knew he stole from me. It was the most satisfying thing ever, and I will gladly pay 100 euros to witness that moment again. The second story is: falsely report me for harassment, enjoy coworkers turning on you. I worked for a Korean car manufacturer for 3 years as a quality control manager. I have hearing difficulties and am classified as hard of hearing/deaf, and require hearing aids, which I don't wear, to work. All of this is important to the story. I was not the person that did the revenge, but they were my coworkers. Quick cast list: CW 1 to 4, coworker 1, 2, 3, 4, SB, stuck up B, MM, my manager, HR, human resources person, OW, office worker. Me, that one guy. We had recently installed new machines that produced an important part that was in high demand due to recent changes in the manufacturing process. We had to hire more people due to the fact that these machines are not calibrated perfectly, and my department had to check every part before it was shipped, which is about 2,000 per shift and about 4,000 every day. When they are completed, they're too hot to handle, even with heat-resistant gloves. We had to wait 6+ hours for them to cool down. This makes the volume needing to be checked and shipped very high. One of the people who was hired was SB. Now on to the story. So me, CW1 and CW2 were checking parts in one group, along with SB, CW3 and CW4 in another group, with about 30 to 40 feet between groups. My group had been playing Xbox recently after work to relax. CW1: dude, we got effed last night in that match. Me: yeah, I know that was BS, that guy effing us up. CW2: yeah, I couldn't do SH against him. We talked like this for a good 20 to 30 minutes before MM came around and told us to load what we had on the truck and get started on a new batch. About 10 minutes before, I had noticed that SB had disappeared and assumed she went to the restroom. I was very wrong. Out of the corner of my eye, I see SB, MM, HR, and OW walking towards us, and SB has a smug look on her face. MM: can you step over here, please? Me: sure, what's up? HR: it's come to our attention that you've been harassing SB, using vulgar terms as well as sexual comments. Me: I'm quite certain that I did not, and the only thing I have said to SB is instructions on what she needs to be doing today. You can ask CW1, CW2, CW3, and CW4 if you don't believe me. MM: I will do that and get them to sign the paperwork that you need to sign with your side of the event. MM, HR, and OW end up questioning my coworkers, and they all sign the papers saying that I didn't say anything to SB. There was a lot of swearing from our group, though, which we admitted to. SB more than likely heard us talking, since without my hearing aids in, I speak loudly, and those that know me won't correct me since I go back to being loud quite quickly. HR: due to the fact that you admitted to the language, we will be giving you a warning, but don't let it happen again, or we will have to let you go. Now, I understand that the rules at my work stated that swearing would get you in trouble, but everyone else has the decency to ask you not to swear in front of them if it makes them uncomfortable. This is where the coworkers I was with that day showed me support. They made sure that this incident was supposed to be confidential, was told to everyone that worked there. As I was basically friends or on good terms with most of the employees I had, People were asking if I was getting fired and basically telling me they were going to get back at SB, which I discouraged but did so half-heartedly. After the incident, everyone was watching and listening for SB to slip up, and anytime they heard SB swear or say anything seemingly inappropriate, they reported it and it was written up. As one of the managers, I had to check and file the write-ups and make sure that SB signed the write-ups. After 2 months, SB had 20 incidents. I made sure I wasn't the one telling MM and HR, but got another floor manager to mention SB's file had a lot of write-ups. HR found out and went ballistic because first SB reported me, so they were watching me like a hawk. Then they find out SB was getting reported for similar issues with many more witnesses. Needless to say, they let SB go and informed the other manufacturers in the area of the incident so they wouldn't hire her either. The third story is, you forget your manners, I'll forget your groceries. I work in a grocery store. I would estimate that excluding holidays, 90% of our customers are perfectly pleasant and/or polite people. Unfortunately, the 10% seems to take that as a challenge to put their nasty in overdrive. Bees like Gladys, for example. Gladys is a regular, one of those who regularly throws a fit and vows never to shop here again. We're all still waiting for that day. Gladys has, on many occasions, stolen from the store, returned detergent saying it was no good, only for us to find the containers filled with water. Pushed a cart with all her might towards an unsuspecting employee. I've been hit twice. Both times she tee-heed and said oopsie before sauntering off. Tried to switch price tags on products. Damaged things so she could buy them at a discount. Screamed bloody murder at whichever clerk who had the misfortune of serving her. Dumped out all of her bags in a rage because they were not packed to her liking. I hate Gladys. Gladys came in today. I should have known she was coming, because it was a perfectly sunny day and then boom, pouring rain. The bee was in the store for 3 hours, and in that time managed to decide on 3 different ice cream flavors before changing her mind, and leaving them in random non-refrigerated places all around the store. She did the same thing with a package of sushi and some potato salad. The worst part is she doesn't just drop the stuff on a shelf. She puts it on a shelf and pushes it way to the back, mostly out of sight. Once at the check stand, she shouted insults at my coworker Peggy, who's the sweetest old woman you've ever met, telling her that old people should just go die and stop slowing everyone down. Gladys demanded someone walk her out and load her groceries. I got stuck with the job. She walked behind me the whole way and refused to point out her car. Every time I moved towards one that wasn't hers, she'd shout, "Not that one, you moron." Turns out Gladys had parked so far away she wasn't even in our parking lot anymore. Gladys opened the hatchback of her SUV, grabbed 2 bags and dropped them on the ground while she dug for her keys. Her phone beeped and she fiddled with it distractedly. "Load my stuff, I'm in a hurry." She then went and got into the driver's seat, leaving the 2 full bags of groceries on the ground next to her door. I realized she had forgotten about the 2 bags, and since she'd taken them up to the front of the car, I decided I'd forget about them too. I loaded her groceries as slowly as humanly possible. I started to wonder if I should just pack the groceries in when she looked back and started shouting. "Why are you taking so long?" "Nah, just making sure nothing will fall and break the eggs, ma'am. All finished now, have a good day." I closed the hatchback and got out of the way so she could back up. She left quickly, not once remembering the 2 bags of groceries. I left them sitting there in the rain, so if she came back quickly to find them, she'd find the paper bag soaked through. Take that, you haggard old harpy. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Have a good day.